Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Craig, Superintendent of West Aurora Schools, and we are in podcast number 8, and we are really super excited about our opportunity to talk with Police Chief Kristen Ziman. Chief Ziman, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is a new way of approaching our conversations. Normally we would sit in our exec council conference room and have a discussion, but we're going to go out and grab some coffee and just have a casual conversation as we drive around some of our schools.
Sounds good. I can keep an eye on your driving skills.
Absolutely.
Make sure you're following, obeying all the laws, the traffic laws.
It'd be important not to have a distracted driving ticket.
No, not at all.
So, one of the unique things about being able to have a conversation with our police chief is that you are a graduate of West Aurora Schools.
Go Blackhawks.
Go Blackhawks, roll on.
Yep.
So, not to pry to your age, but what year did you graduate?
That is a pry to my age. I'm a proud graduate of 1991.
1991.
Yep.
Lots changed since then.
Yes, it has. With the addition of the school, I get lost in there now.
Yeah, and probably district-wide you've seen a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I know a lot of our, we've got probably 80% of our 3,700 students participate in extracurricular activities. Did you take advantage of those opportunities when you were a student?
I did. My freshman year, and no one knows this, but I was on the bowling team.
Wow.
Yeah, that's top secret. And then I found my niche in theater. So under Donna Letster, I was in the theater program, and Meg Papadolius and the choir, and then
famous names in history.
And Barbara Blum as the newspaper advisor. So I was on the newspaper staff and one of the editors. So that was my jam.
So you talked about some of those specific things. Were there other fond memories that kind of, you still hearken on and still kind of come back and go, hey, that was really a fun time in my life?
It's a culmination of so many memories that I have. One of which, and I'm sure this is true for every current student and alumnus, is that the games. The games are always just the best places to be. The football games and basketball games, and the Rowdies were there when I was there. So it's nice to see that tradition.
Absolutely.
So my memories are of that esprit de corps and that camaraderie, and just the roll-on Blackhawks. And then of course my memories are of the contribution to the newspaper staff and the skills that I developed there. So not only was it fun, but in connecting the dots backwards, I learned so much, and so much of which I apply to my current life.
Well, that tradition still carries on today. Our Rowdies are still front and center, along with a very large band at a lot of our events.
Yeah.
And so we're really proud of how our kids carry themselves and show that exuberance and excitement for our teams.
Absolutely.
So making the leap, when you left West Aurora High School, where did you then take on your post-secondary education?
So this is interesting, as all of my friends went away to college, and I knew I wanted to be a police officer since probably elementary school. And it was really cool about that as well at West High, because when I sat down with my counselor, Archie Needham, and I told him I want to be a police officer, and all my teachers knew that's what I wanted to do. And it was nice to have that support from the staff at West High. But after that, I actually applied for the cadet test at the Aurora Police Department. So I literally graduated in June of 91 and started my police career as a cadet in July of 1991. So I went to Waubonsee. Actually, the police department paid for my college at Waubonsee, and then after that, I felt unfinished and wanted to continue my education. So I got my bachelor's degree from Aurora University, went on to get a master's degree in police administration from Boston University, and I'm very proud to say I finished my second master's degree in Homeland Security next month, actually. So
that's
a lot of
really incredible. Absolutely. So you said you always wanted or knew you wanted to be a police officer. What do you think? Really kind of pushed your thought process that way?
Well, I think it was growing up in a house where my father was a police officer, so it was that legacy. But it goes even beyond that. I have this personality where it's very hard for me to to consider myself or to sit behind a desk, and which is ironic because that's exactly what I do now. But I like the idea of every day being different, being in a squad car and driving around and having something new and exciting, never knowing what the day is going to hold, and the idea of being able to help people even at their worst times.
Yes.
Was very intriguing and challenging to me, and I think that's what drew me to the profession, and that's what keeps me loving the profession.
So, it's an interesting piece because I liken it to, being in administration. When you're a classroom teacher, you see and you're out and you're doing with kids, and then administratively you're pulling the 35 to 50,000. So as the chief of police, how do you know and do you think you're making a difference in our community?
I certainly hope so. As the chief, as you said, the key to being the chief is, to me, it's about serving those you lead, the boots on the street, we call them, and just like, the teachers in the classroom, those are the ones who are doing the work and who are making the difference. And so for me, the impact I hope to make is to give them the tools they need to perform their job, set the mission and the vision, and for me, that mission and vision is all about community. And that's, interestingly enough, what ties into the school districts, and our relationship in partnership with District 129 is absolutely phenomenal. And there's so much of an overlap in community. So the impact that I hope to make is that the number one is to leave it better than I found it, but is to emphasize that not only do we enforce laws, that's the part of our job that's, makes people upset sometimes. Yes. But the other part of our job is to build relationships and to have community engagement. And I hope that I have helped to build trust in the community, because that's where I believe our residents, our citizens, our students, those who have businesses here will work with us because they trust us. And I think trust is paramount.
I want to come back to that transition from being the boots on the ground to that leadership role, but I think we have another important task here.
One very important task.
Yes, and so I want to order some coffee here. And can I ask what?
Can we get started for you?
Tall non-fat vanilla latte.
Tall non-fat vanilla latte.
Tall non-fat vanilla latte.
And can I have a tall blonde, please?
And a tall blonde. That really a pour over. Is that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Anything else?
I think that's good.
$6.27.
Thank you.
Gotta get the non-fat, working on my six-pack.
So this will be an interesting part of the video right here.
There's no line here.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often.
I know.
Hi there, 627.
How are you today?
You know what? I can't complain. How are you guys?
Awesome. Hey, do you know who the chief of police is here in Aurora?
I don't.
You don't? Do you know if it's male or female? Not at all? Would you like to meet the chief of police?
Is it you?
No?
Is it you?
Yes.
Nice. Did you just get elected?
It'll be 3 years in January.
Still excited about it though? I appreciate it.
Yes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome. He's the chief of police here in Aurora. Oh, wow. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks. Good to meet you as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thanks. You put them on the spot.
I did.
That was uncomfortable.
That's how I do it. Now he says, clean your windshield off. Okay. So, interestingly enough, and I'm sure you've been reminded of this multiple times, being the first female police chief in the city of Aurora.
Yes.
What's the significance of that?
So that's an interesting question for me, because I spent my entire career really trying to shine the light away from being a female.
Yep.
In a male-dominated profession. It was more important to me that I blended in and was one of the guys. And, we're a military organization, and it just seemed fitting that, we didn't concentrate on gender.
Sure.
And it wasn't honestly until, in fact, I'll tell you, when I became the first female lieutenant in the history of the police department. And I was so uncomfortable with the headline, because I got promoted with some great people who also became lieutenants, but the headline was first female. And I thought, it took away from
your merits.
It's not only that, and some excellent guys too that also earned it, and I know I earned it. I'm proud of that, but it just felt like it was such a focus on being a female. And so then I went on to become the first female commander and then the first chief. But by then, I started to realize that there is such power in seeing something that you wouldn't normally see. And by that I mean, when I first started in the police department, there were no females in rank. And that was in 1991. Not even one female had reached the rank of sergeant. And so it never ever occurred to me that I would move up in the police department, because I didn't see that. I didn't see that, anyone emulating that. And so I started to change that mindset to, wait a minute, that's, it's an opportunity and it's a responsibility to say, yes, I was the first female, and to pave the path. There have been so many women that paved the path in policing for me. So now I understand the importance of being a role model and being able to look at something and say, one day I want to be that. And so my whole paradigm has changed about that.
So my guess is that you've transcended the ranks into the position of chief, which validates your body of work.
Yes.
And so no longer, and I shouldn't say no longer, probably fewer times is it about gender, as you say, but it's more about the work that you've done.
Absolutely.
And the leadership model that you've created. And, breaking that glass ceiling, allowing other people to aspire and say, yes, I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming into a time where more women in the military, more women becoming police chiefs. And I'm happy that it's becoming the norm. That's what I've always wanted. But you're right. Competency speaks, it defies gender. And so I hope that I've gained the respect of the people in my organization and the citizens I serve.
That's awesome. And I, quite honestly, there's people say whether you're continuing the mantle or you're establishing your own pathway. I think people have a great deal of respect in the direction the department is heading, and so kudos to you on that.
Well, thank you very much. And the credit goes to the men and women who wear this uniform, who go out there every single day and do such good work. And, you see the headlines in other cities of how sometimes the badge is tarnished,
Yes.
by one wrong move. And that is so unfortunate, because the work that these men and women do, and the civilians and even the citizens who, are part of our organization by reporting crimes to us, by volunteering in the Citizens Police Academy. We have so many allies in citizens, and as I mentioned earlier, as in school districts, and that's how you move a city forward.
So let's talk a little bit about that. You've transitioned from those boots on the ground, that rank and file, in through the leadership. What were those transitions like? And what kind of nudged you to even aspire to those positions of rank?
So as I mentioned earlier, I never even thought of myself as promoting because it just didn't seem like it was a possibility. And I would say this to any student right now who is listening, is that, or to anyone actually who's looking beyond of what their capabilities are. And I think number one, there are two things that happen. Number one, people always see something in you that you don't see in yourself.
True.
And the truth is that at West Aurora High School, Barbara Blum was that person for me. It's part of the reason that I had a column in the Beacon for so many years. I started writing because she said, "Wow, you're a good writer. You should join my newspaper staff." Yeah, and the same happened for me at work when a lieutenant said to me, "You should really take the sergeant's test." And I did the whole, "Are you talking to me? Who are you talking to?" And he said, "Yeah, you never miss an opportunity to better yourself." And so I changed that mindset from why not me from why me to why not me? I'm going to test for it. And so it was that shift in that self-talk that just said, you can do this. And that's what made me want to move up into the leadership roles. The things that I have learned in leadership is that when I was a patrol officer, I would look at my sergeants and say, God, why are they making that decision? What are they thinking? And then when I became a sergeant, I was like, oh yeah, that's why they do that. Every seat, every rank I have got in, I have said, oh, it looks very different from here.
Yes.
And you can appreciate that too when you're at the 10,000 foot of the organization and you're trying to manage everyone and make sure everything is running smoothly. You see things very differently, and the challenges that I used to think, what were they thinking? Yes. Now I understand. Okay,
and you own them.
That's right, and that's my mantra. I have a plaque in my office, and it says, I'm responsible because, sometimes things, aren't our fault, but we are absolutely responsible for them. And so I have to remind myself all the time, but it's been quite an eye opener to reach the different ranks. And people sometimes think that your IQ goes up with the collar brass, and the truth of that is no. The smartest people are all around our organizations, no matter what position they hold.
And the bag of answers gets bigger, right?
That's right. And best idea wins, no matter who it comes from.
You talked a little bit about students listening. Put your advisor hat on, your coach hat. So if there are students, male, female, doesn't make a difference, that are thinking about law enforcement, and you mentioned, there's, some of law enforcement's got a little bad rap, a little tarnish. So in 2018, 2019, 20, as we're moving in, how would you advise students that are thinking, contemplating going into law enforcement?
So the answer is different than probably most people would assume I would give. When I talk to young adults about their careers and when they say they want to go into law enforcement, the first thing I tell them is, number one, is the weapon that we carry is actually this guy, and this is our pen. And what I mean by that, it's very symbolic, because what our job is to report the things that have happened in a police report, and take those things to court. So you have to have excellent writing skills, and no one thinks of that.
Our English teachers will embrace you for that.
Yes, and in order to become a good writer, you have to be a voracious reader. So I say read books and write things, write about a situation that just happened, because when you can translate an incident into a police report, it gives you credibility when you're testifying to that on the stand. And so that's so important, and even more important is problem solving. I say become the peacekeeper, in a situation, because this is what we do. When we get to a scene, people look to us. People call 911 at the worst possible times of their life. They don't call us to, just to come over and have coffee.
Yes.
Although you can, anybody who wants to have me over for coffee, we will happily. But people call 911 when they need help. And so you have to have conflict in de-escalation skills, conflict management skills. And so, I tell people, try to think about yourself as a problem solver with command presence. And most importantly is live a life of integrity, because I can train you to shoot a gun. I can train you in defensive tactics. I can train you on how to handcuff someone and to do all the cool things that you see cops do. That's easy. Those are skills that we can teach you, but what you need to bring to the table, what I can't teach you, is trustworthiness, is honesty, integrity, doing the right thing when no one is watching. And we get a lot of people that don't make it through the background check because of the decisions they've made. So the other advice is to surround yourself with people who lift you up and don't knock you down, and then to make very certain that every choice you make is with the end in mind, is if I do this. And that was the cool thing about me wanting to be a police officer all through high school, is I always thought, I can't go to that party, I can't do that because I want to be a police officer and I don't want anything to ruin that. And so if you keep that end in mind, and then another thing to do is seek out people who are where you want to be. Whether you want to be a police officer, whether you want to be a police chief, whether you want to be a superintendent, seek out people who are in those positions and ask them, how did you get here? What did you do?
If I can interrupt you, we're passing by McCleary Elementary here.
Also my alma mater.
Nicely done.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Go McCleary.
So I'm sorry, you were talking about seeking out people that were in that role that you're aspiring to.
And find out how they got there. It's about mentorship, taking the things, the qualities in people. That's what I've done with leadership. So many things of leadership over the years, honestly, I've learned what not to do. But also, you watch people and emulate them, and that's how you get to where you want to be.
Notice I'm demonstrating good looking both ways.
I see that. In your turn signal.
Yes.
Also stop behind the line.
Yes.
Spot on.
Not rolling through.
Yeah.
So a little bit of shift from some of the serious questions. We're in the throes of celebrating 150 years at West Aurora High School.
Incredible.
Which is not too many places get to make that claim.
Yep.
So what's your reflections on being a part of that? Not that you're 150 years old by any stretch of the imagination, but you're a part of that legacy.
Yeah.
You're a part of that history. What's some of your reflection on just that whole piece of being a Blackhawk, of the things you've talked about in your fond memories and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's once a Blackhawk, always a Blackhawk. And, I joke, of course, our mayor is a Tomcat,
Yes.
and my former chief was a Tomcat, so we had this rivalry going. But the truth is, I have so much pride. It just swells up in my chest when I drive by West High, and when just knowing that I am everything that I am and have become, and I'm proud of my accomplishments, has been because of that foundation that I have had in this school district. And I do not say that lightly. And I like to bring my own kids into this is, here's what the legacy of West High, and I see it now that my kids are in college, but they both still, all four, I have two stepkids as well, and they bleed red and blue. And what I love about the legacy is what West High does, this whole district does. It allows you to find your niche and to be exactly who you are meant to be. And I've had 4 kids go through that school, and all of them on different trajectories. My daughter was a varsity athlete all 4 years. My son is all musical theater, lives and breathes that. And then I have one that's so smart in math, and there's like everything that you are and can be, you can find yourself in the halls of this school. And it allows you, again, to be precisely who you are meant to be and to be exactly who you are. And it's so diverse and belonging. And I can't say enough about being a part of that legacy. It makes me swell with pride.
As we're just strolling past Jefferson Middle School.
Yep. Also my alma mater.
Also your alma mater. I don't know if strategically
Go
it may have
Jayhawks.
worked out
I know.
there.
I feel like you're taking me on a path.
Down memory lane. You mentioned your kids, and I'm curious, and because your kids were very successful, very involved, how do you think your experience influenced their experiences and their aspirations within West Aurora School District?
Yeah, well, I think that part of part of your experiences that you have anywhere you are is actually getting out there and showing up for things. And it's the one thing I always told them is, what's the thing, what are you interested in? Don't, try new things. And that's the other cool thing is you can join a club. There are a multitude, and there's even more now when the kids were telling me about the different clubs that there are.
Oh, yes.
Far more than when was there. And
61 clubs and activities at the high school alone.
Absolutely incredible. So there is bound to be a hobby or something that interests you. And so the one piece of advice and what I learned from by being there, and I don't think I fully understood it until I graduated, was how much that, having my interests in alignment with what was available to me at West High. But that was my advice to the kids, was get involved in anything that you have an interest in, regardless of whether they're competing interests. You can be in choir and you can play sports. You can be in the arts and you can still be an athlete. All of those things that people consider on separate trajectories. But and that's what I learned from it, and that's what I believe I did instill in them. And they are so successful. They're successful human beings thus far because, once I got to college, and this is another thing of the college prep, and not everybody is on the college trajectory. There's also, there's so many skills you can learn that may not fit kids that want to go to college, but there's still skills that you can learn. But for them, that when they got to college, they said, I learned time management, from honors classes, and learned how to juggle my sports and my theater and all of the things. And it's making them successful college students because of the foundation that they've got from here, received from here.
And as we drive past the pinnacle of your West Aurora experience, West High, go Blackhawks. We are a real world society under one roof. And I think that's a real important piece. You talk about the diversity that we have and we share, and kids walk away from our setting and they're not surprised by anything that society can throw at them.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece as well.
Absolutely.
As we think about wrapping up our conversation, this is probably a little self-serving on my part, but if someone were to come up to you and say, so Chief, you've got a little, skin in the game here in terms of the safety of our community. If somebody says, I've got young kids, and I'm thinking about buying some of that affordable housing in Aurora.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that when they say, "What do you think?"
Well, I obviously tell them, number one, our crime rate has reduced so much so that people can live here and go to school here and work here and raise their children here and not have to worry. We have our problems. Any city, we are the second largest city in Illinois. We're going to have our crime problems, but we have been on a steady reduction since the 90s. And I tell anyone who is preparing to move here, I will pull up the stats and I will show them here is why it is safe, and the numbers don't lie.
Hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it really is, and and it's an art and a science. And I also tell them again about the partnerships, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's so important to me. In fact, when I was arriving here today, I was talking to Kevin Triplett, who's a former police officer,
Yes.
and said, we just had a meeting with your police department and some of the other surrounding cities. That is so important that we all stay on the same page, because we also have school resource officers that are doing a phenomenal job in the middle schools and in the high schools. And so they keep that liaison position keeps us really informed about anything that's happening in the school. And obviously, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, how the fearfulness of, school shootings. And so we have to work together to identify anyone who's troubled and where we can thwart a threat before it happens. And that's where the teachers come in. That's where the school resource officers come in, social workers, and the police. And we all can work together and hinder that and keep our kids safe.
And if you haven't heard it, and you probably have never heard enough, but we truly value that partnership, because we think that's what helps assuage some of our families and parents to say, "Are my kids safe?" They want a good education, but they want to know that they're going to be safe. And I think that truly is a great step and a great partnership that we value with Aurora and North Aurora Police Departments.
Absolutely. And there was a movement back in the day where we don't want squad cars parked in front of the school.
Yes.
And
couldn't have a uniform on.
No, couldn't wear a uniform. But there's a deterrence when you have a uniformed officer there and a squad car parked outside. It doesn't mean something is wrong. It's a deterrent. So if someone were to come in and become a threat, they might think twice about it.
We're there for you.
Yeah, that's very important. So it doesn't mean something is wrong. And I think that's that us versus them mentality.
Yes.
So if the police are here, something is bad. And and so there is no us, there is no them. It's just we.
So one of the things that I have come to find out about you, and in speaking with people within the department and people that have left the department, and that's just what a great resource you are, not just to the Aurora community and not just to the state of Illinois, but regionally and nationally, because of some of the training that you got. You talked about your second master's. You talk about really focusing and honing in on some specific strategies, philosophies, tactics. What do you bring back to our community and to our region as a result of that education, as a result of that training?
So that's, to me, education is paramount, and I don't even necessarily mean in it as a formal degree. You don't have to have a formal degree to educate yourself, but it has been my promise to my organization and to this city that I will commit myself to constant self-improvement, because the more I learn at the federal level, and having a degree in Homeland Security, which is a degree in terrorism, helps me partner and has brought in a lot of resources from the federal level and knowledge of things that we need to look for here in a community.
Absolutely.
We just look at our own little microcosm of the city, and but we don't look beyond it. And so the education that I've received from outside of this city and with this second master's degree helps me bring new ideas and new processes and systems that will also help keep our community safe.
Well, Chief, it has been truly an honor for you to be a part of our podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
We really value what you bring to the Aurora community and to our West Aurora schools. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. So I want to just share with our folks that we've had the honor of having Chief Kristen Ziman, Aurora Police Chief, here on podcast number 8. Please remember you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and the TuneIn Radio app. And I would encourage you to subscribe to our broadcast, and please give us feedback so we can continue to improve on our discussions. Chief Ziman, it's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.